Let's listen what this guy, John Kirby, has to say.
What conclusion?
That Prime Minister Netanyahu isn't doing enough to get a ceasefire.
The president wants this ceasefire.
Getting back to the Middle East, the president on February the 26th said, "My hope is by next Monday we will have a ceasefire." On Saturday evening, just past, he said, "We are on the verge of having an agreement." And it was on Monday morning when he was asked whether Prime Minister Netanyahu was doing enough to reach a deal, he replied no. Why did it take him more than 6 months to reach that conclusion?
Conclusion? What conclusion?
That Prime Minister Netanyahu isn't doing enough to get a ceasefire.
The president wants this ceasefire. The president knows that in order to get this ceasefire, it requires leadership. It requires compromise. And it requires a common understanding of exactly how this ceasefire is going to benefit the people of Israel and the people of Gaza. And there are substantial things in here for the people of Gaza. But if you're asking me to apologize or issue some sort of regret because we want to get caught trying, because we want to see it over the finish line, because there are times when we've been optimistic that we can get there, only to learn that we couldn't, I ain't gonna do it. There is nothing wrong with continuing to try to achieve this incredibly difficult negotiation and this outcome, a ceasefire that again would visit terrific benefits all around, including in the region. And so have there been times when we've been stymied? Yes. Have there been times when we thought we were close and turned out that we weren't as close as we thought? Absolutely. And you know what? Today might be one of those days. Even today, I told the gaps are, we can narrow them. And today might be one of those days that maybe I'll prove to be wrong. But no apologies for trying. No apologies for keeping the shoulder to the wheel.
Okay, so looks like he became a little bit more of like an emotional guy than giving facts and evidence and proof about the progress of the work. No, this kind of emotional cry would not help. Let's take a listen at this lady. She is saying exactly something the opposite of what is happening on the ground.
Today is day 333 of the October 7th war. Let's get right to the point. Israel's prime minister said last night, Hamas rejected every hostage release deal since November 2023.
Big lie.
Don't take Israel's word for it. On April 27th, U.S. Secretary of State Blinken had said Israel made an extraordinarily generous offer.
Big
On
lie.
May 31st,
Big lie.
Israel
Big lie.
agreed to a U.S.-backed proposal. Hamas refused.
Big lie.
On August 16th, Israel agreed to an American final bridging proposal. Hamas refused.
Big lie.
On August 19th, Secretary Blinken said Israel accepted the U.S. proposal. Now Hamas must do the same thing. On August 21st, U.S. Deputy CIA head said, Israel shows seriousness in the negotiations. Now Hamas must show the same seriousness.
Big lie.
Does anyone think that Hamas wants to release the hostages?
Okay, so first point is that obviously Hamas, they want to release the hostages. That's why they have the hostages. They want a ceasefire in exchange. They do not want to kill them. If they wanted to kill them, guess what? They would have done it by now. They want to release them, but on the condition that this genocide will stop and Israel will stop bombing residential places and killing and slaughtering children. That's exactly what Hamas wants. Now let's take a listen a little bit more.
Hamas is executing hostages. What is the proper response to this? Is it to pressure Israel? That just doesn't make sense. If you pressure Israel, you're telling Hamas that its strategy is working.
Okay, so basically, in other words, they should not be pressured. In other words, if US, they want to bring a ceasefire, they need to stop pressuring Israel because it's not going to work. That's exactly what she meant. That if you pressure Israel, if you want to have a ceasefire deal and have Israel agree on that, it means it's a defeat for Israel and a win, a victory for Hamas. Therefore, every effort that U.S. State Department, the Foreign Secretary Anthony Blinken, they're making is actually what Israel and their understanding is absolutely something they do not accept, because this is creating more pressure on them, and that this pressure needs to stop, because it is Hamas who will never accept a ceasefire deal, which is absolutely to me a preposterous thing to say, because this is why they have the hostages, so that they can have a ceasefire agreement with Israel. Now, what I find this Kirby guy's statement very strange is that he said there is nothing wrong trying to get a negotiation even if we fail. I agree with that totally, no problem. But when you go for a mediator role and you try to bring a ceasefire, you have to come from a position of power and authority, which US doesn't have whatsoever over Israel. Now, I want to refute what she said, this Zionic or genocidal maniac. I want to just refute her with few points. So basically what happened is that this was published only a few minutes ago, actually coming from Al Jazeera. Israeli army kills teenager in West Bank, raid drags body using bulldozer. Do you think this is a country who wants a ceasefire, or who is waiting for Hamas to accept a ceasefire? Absolutely not. They are now targeting people in West Bank. They are now killing people there, and Al Jazeera reported this 39 minutes ago that a teenager was killed, and now we know there are almost 600-700 people from West Bank got killed by this Zionist monster, this is the Netanyahu government. 3 days ago, just 3 days ago, there was a report coming from the Times of Israel. Netanyahu's so-called supreme effort, quote unquote, for a hostage ceasefire deal has been skewed and inadequate. It is coming from who? Times of Israel, Israeli newspaper itself. Then 22 hours ago, former Israeli hostage negotiator Gershon Baskin slams Netanyahu for blocking ceasefire deal. He's a ex-IDF negotiator, himself saying that Israel is the one responsible for not agreeing to any ceasefire, unlike what we have just heard from the Zionist maniac. Remember this lady saying that Israel wants a ceasefire and Hamas every time they don't want a ceasefire, and that the whole world should stop pressuring Israel. This is what she said. Now what we hear, and this is coming from Israeli news itself, and an ex-IDF negotiator. Israel could leave Philadelphia corridor, coming from Jerusalem Post, could leave Philadelphia corridor for a permanent ceasefire deal, Netanyahu. He's saying it now after feeling so much pressure from his own country. The goal is to destroy Gaza, coming from on Al Jazeera, May the 7th. Why Israel rejects a ceasefire with Hamas. The goal is to destroy Gaza. Benjamin Netanyahu, this is coming from Western media, Sky News, 2 days ago. Benjamin Netanyahu says he will, quote unquote, not surrender as pressure grows over hostage release deal. Means he's not gonna negotiate with Hamas. Then Israel's Rafah invasion, rejection of the Hamas ceasefire deal and US role, coming from Daily Star. Hamas refuses new Gaza ceasefire. This is coming 3 weeks ago, France. Ceasefire deal as Biden applauds progress. So again, Biden was jumping the gun, hoping that this is going to be all done without a permanent solution for the people of Gaza. So when they said, well, Hamas refuses new Gaza ceasefire deal, what they're basically saying is that Israel will not permanently stop this ceasefire, on which obviously Hamas objected and said, no, this is not what we want. We want a permanent ceasefire. So these are all charades coming from Biden administration. Israel-Gaza ceasefire deal closer than ever, Biden says 3 weeks ago. But again, the problem is they are going to refuse, and Joe Biden administration, they're just facilitating Israel to continue this genocide in Gaza as long as it will take for them to accomplish their mission, whatever that mission may be. In other words, these people, like the one you're seeing on the screen, that continue going to lie and lie and lie, And as I said in my previous videos, they're going to continue to lie until you believe all their lies. At one point, you'll be like, yeah, Hamas is bad. They are the one not accepting any ceasefire deal. This is how often they will lie. And they have lot of social media accounts. They are making videos every single day to propagate all of these lies and their PR machine with all bollocks. Guys, we have to be careful at what we hear from these people and not trust a word they say, because the news I have quoted to you just now, these are not these are not Middle Eastern newspapers only, but also Asian and Western. So you do not have to believe Al Jazeera, for example. You can just go and Google and find out how Netanyahu is trying to stop any ceasefire deal with Hamas.